record. Now I'm going to share the screen. There we go. We're going to talk about a concept that Nikken discovered well over 42 years ago, called active wellness and living a life in balance. When we have a look at the way we live today, our daily choices will determine the quality of our life. We can choose to be humans being more, to be healthy and vibrant, or to be humans under stress. And that is to be very sickly and not feeling so well. The choices that we make are going to determine the results that we get. So small little choices that we can make on a daily basis can either bring us from humans under stress up to becoming humans being more, or it could also take us from humans being more to humans under stress. So those little choices that we make can make a huge difference. Nikken is a company that has a holistic approach to life. Balance in all 5 pillars of health: healthy body, mind, family, society, and finances. When you find balance in these 5 pillars, you're going to have complete total wellness. You're going to have life freedom. And that's something that Nikken is achieving to create worldwide so that everybody can have a good quality of life. And we do this by creating wellness home environments worldwide. And that's taking the critical vital elements of life and creating a very healthy atmosphere. So good air to breathe, good sleep that we get so that we rest, rejuvenate, get up, feeling ready to meet our day. Good, healthy water, re-energized water, purified and re-energized, so that we will become hydrated. Good nutritional supplementation so that we get those nutrients in the body as we need. Exposure to the natural energies of the sun, the earth, and the wind, so that we can feel vibrant, healthy every single day. And we can have this in our home, we can have it in our car, in our office, as we're out and about walking. We can have exposure to these natural energies all the time. The products that we use to create this healthy environment revolve around nutrition and skincare, environment, rest and relaxation, and there's a number of products in each of these categories. We're going to share some stories tonight that is going to demonstrate to you how effective these products are to create a better quality of life for you. So with that, I'm going to stop the share right now, and we're going to come back to our in-home guests. Wow, we have got 31 guests here from all over North America. And I believe, I'm not too sure if we've got someone from Israel or not. Anyways, this is really, really awesome. I'd like to call upon...
yes, Israel is here.
Yes, Israel is here. Welcome, Mrs. Kramer. Isn't that cool? How exciting. I'm going to call upon our first guest speaker tonight, Brody Craney. I'm going to see if I can, or can you unmute yourself, Brody?
We're good.
Thank you. Whoops. Thank you, and welcome. Brody, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, why, how you discovered Nikken, why you have joined Nikken, and what keeps you going? What is it that is so special for you?
I'd love to. I discovered Nikken at a time in my life when, I guess you'd say I was looking. I was company manager for Utah Festival Opera Company. I was teaching piano. I was teaching voice. I was teaching theory at the university, managing apartment complexes, and working on a master's degree. And my family just kept telling me I ought to take a look at this as a business. And I thought, I need a business like I need a hole in the head right now. what happened in our family that turned this whole thing in this direction was I had a brother-in-law that had 11 years worth of major back problems. Had a body surfing accident, and it made it so it hurt to move. It hurt to work. It hurt to sleep. It hurt to smile. It hurt. He'd been to doctors, chiropractors, massage therapists. Nothing would give him any long-term relief. And a device similar to this with magnetic technologies on it went into his back. Magnetic insoles went into his shoes, and his life was transformed. So much so that he thought, man, if a few magnets will help me feel good from Nikken, I wonder if I got one of those Nikken sleep systems, what would happen? And he found that he was sleeping 2 to 4 hours less per day with more energy, daily headaches that had plagued him. He was taking 300 to 500 aspirin per month just so he could function. He'd take a handful in the morning, a handful at mid-morning, a handful at noon, another handful in the afternoon. And at any rate, that all went away. So he became very, very strong proponent of this and suggested that I take a look at this. And I thought, man, I was in my mid-20s at that point, and I thought, I don't need this. I'm busy. Don't bother me with your magnets. He had suggested it would be a help for some health challenges that I had, though. I had been in the West Indies for a couple years there, lived with chronic strep throat and bronchitis every year thereafter, because while in the West Indies, I was bit by a mosquito. Got what they call dengue fever of 105 for a week. I couldn't walk for 3 weeks. Thereafter, every morning I awoke achy, stiff, sore, kind of, if you will, like feeling like I might be 70 years old for 2 hours in the morning. And that was no fun. But the real no fun part was my immune system was shot. And I started getting chronic strep throat and bronchitis, started getting headaches, all that type of stuff. And for the life of me, I had a problem. I had a problem connecting the dots, because my paradigm was such that if you want to get well, you go to the doctor and he gives you a pill. And that's just kind of how we're raised in the society to think. And so I said no 3 times to my family about this. And what ended up happening is my brother-in-law got the products on my mother. My mother had been going downhill for a decade. She had a degenerative connective tissue disease, a degenerative bone disease. She had terrible time sleeping. She would have headaches that would leave her in bed for 3 and 4 days at a time. Where she ate any food, she would throw up. Massive digestive disorders. My mother went from being on top of the world to she could hardly sweep the floor. Now, you have to understand, I grew up on a farm, and mother bucked the bales, she moved the rocks, she rode the horses, and she went to not being able to do any of that. So my family told me that she got into what we call a Nikken wellness home. She used the PyMag water, she used the magnetic sleep system, she used the insoles, she used little magnetic circles that we call them power patches all over her body where she hurt. In a 6-month period, she went from being on all the medication that she'd been on to no more. And I was convinced that she had been brainwashed. Sometimes if you think you're going to get better, you do. And when I finally came around to it I told you I had a hard time sleeping. The fatigue, the immune system problems, whatever it was, I started falling asleep on a regular basis as I drove. And I don't know about you, but typically driving and sleeping, they're not good neighbors. And I found myself flying through the air a few more times than I care to admit. The last time I rolled my car, and in addition to having the farm, my father had a wrecker. And so he drove over to overturn my car in the ditch upside down. He said, "Son, I don't care how weird you think this stuff is, you will be using it." And these technologies transformed my life. Daily headaches went down to next to never. No more strep throat and bronchitis. I literally sleep 2 to 4 hours less per day, a ton more energy. And then as I connected the dots that maybe health doesn't come from a pill, because I'd tried the pills, maybe health does come from getting a phenomenal sleep by being in these technologies that put us in the Earth's natural energies. Maybe health could come from eliminating some of the toxins we get with this water and so forth. I began to think of all the people I knew who hurt. And my family introduced me to some people who were doing this as a business, that were generating an extra $5, $10, $20, $40,000 in a month. And I thought, what if? what if I could actually help people and make a living at the same time? Do something that was fun. There's a lot of people who don't like what it is that they do for a living, and I thought, man, if these things really work like they worked on me and they worked on my folks and my family, I thought, wouldn't it be neat to be able to share in this manner? So I did, and I shared this part-time for 9 months, and after 9 months, it no longer made sense to have any of the jobs that I had, if you will, and I haven't had a job now in over 22 years. And I've been able to help people in, well, over 20 different countries, been able to just make a massive difference in a lot of lives. And, I'll just share a few I was thinking of before this call started. There was a young man. The unique thing about this business is that as you share with people, let's say you share with someone that has sleep problems, they know a bunch of other people with sleep problems. You share with someone that has back problems, they know a bunch of other people. And it just goes and goes and goes. So I was at a wellness fair and happened to introduce the technologies. And the last person to come through was a lady named Inga. Went over to her house and gave her rollout. She fell asleep on the sleep system. And when she fell, just take a message for me, Cameron. She fell asleep on the sleep system. And so I decided to leave her there. And the next morning she called up and she said, "What'd you do to me?" She said, "I've had pleurisy. And they haven't been able to get rid of it. I had problems with the lungs and breathing and all this stuff." And she says, "I've got 0 symptoms this morning." She said, "Can you go tell my nurse friend about this?" So her nurse friend had knee problems, and we got some stuff in her knee, and she'd been hobbling around and having a whole heck of a lot of problems. And we put the far infrared wraps on her knee, and we made it so it wasn't hard for her to move, and she could get around and play with her grandkids. And she said, "You need to go tell my friend Karen." And Karen said, "Well, I don't need this stuff. I don't know why she recommended it to me." And she says, "I'm just fine." And I said, "Well, why don't you try some of this stuff out?" Long story short, she got in a sleep system. She was waking up 3 hours earlier in the morning. And instead of nodding as her kid left for school in the morning, she was up at 5:30 in the morning playing tennis with him, actually having a relationship with her child. She shared it with a lady who she'd been through bone marrow transplants, chemotherapy, all the radiation. She hurt to walk. She hurt to move, couldn't have clothing on her arms, was oversensitive, massive night sweats at night. And Kim ended up getting on this products, and her life was transformed. Within a month, was making an extra $5,000 a month doing this. And she introduced me to a lady who had been in a car accident. Melaney had, sorry, the phone's ringing pretty crazy here. Melaney had been in a car accident where 6 of the 8 people had been killed. And her hip was crushed, and she'd been through 20 different specialists, over $200,000 worth of procedures and surgeries, etc. And she still hurt every day of her life for 10 years since the accident. Within 2 days of utilizing the Nikken Wellness Home technologies, got in the sleep system, got in the insoles, got all the spot magnets where she needed them, no more hurt. She couldn't help but share it. So she shared it with the Wilkies. And anyway, this goes on down. I was going to share it here with a young man that had 20 years worth of seizures. And he got on a magnetic insole, did the strength test, noticed the difference, got on these products, and 20 years worth of medication were gone in a matter of 2 months of being on these products. So the power of these technologies is that they transform lives in a massive, massive way. Many of you know that I'm extremely excited about Nikken's bone health technologies. And we'll do a seminar later this month. We're getting as much as double-digit bone density increases as little as 6 months for people. But if you want to affect how people feel, their ability to be with their grandkids, their ability to perform well at work, their ability to not be grumpy with their family. If you want to give people hope who haven't had hope, share this. And if you like making money along the way too, Nikken rewards people, because this is the only way they're going to hear about this is if you tell people. So with that, I think we're going to turn the call over right now a little bit to, I see Madeline Zaworski, and I see Dr. Caldwell there. Folks, I want to introduce Dr. Caldwell. This is one amazing special lady. She's a board-certified pediatrician, And she is willing to fight for what is right for her patients, regardless if it's popular or regardless if other people in the field feel it's the right thing. When she knows that she can do something safe, she can do something that's effective and not have to pour a bunch of chemicals into people, and she'll go to bat. And she's had some amazing stories. So please give a warm welcome, and we're excited to have Dr. Melaney Caldwell on sharing her stories. Dr. Caldwell.
Thank you. Good to be back tonight talking to you. Most of you probably that are on this call or this Zoom call have heard a lot of my stories, but I would like to share them again. Maybe there are a few of you that haven't heard many. But before I share the stories, let me just tell you about a little bit about my background in pediatrics and what I see on a regular basis from a day-to-day, on a day-to-day basis. So I now have been practicing for 25 years. And as Brody shared, I am a board-certified pediatrician, and I did train at a traditional medical school. I attended Georgetown University, and then I did my residency at VCU in Richmond. And I stayed in Richmond because I met some wonderful colleagues, and we all started practice together. And I in 1996 is when I first started practicing. And when I came out of medical school, you know, I thought I did everything by the books as I was trained to do. And it wasn't long before I realized that, you know, what I was trained to do was not seemingly helping the children. I would just see these children return, you know, sick on multiple medications. It was like a revolving door. And so I thought to myself for a minute, well, wait a minute. I went into pediatrics to help families raise healthy children. And what I'm doing is not really helping and not really improving the health of these children. They were very sick, and many of them, from toddlers to even school-age children, were on 4 and 5 medications on a daily basis. I would see a lot of chronic illness, and mostly asthma, allergies, ADHD, obesity, some of the things we know that are affecting the health of our children today. So that is something that I see on a daily basis, but I want to go a little bit further because it has changed over the 25 years that I've been practicing. When I first, got out of medical school, as I mentioned, I would see the asthma, and I would see, some acute infections here and there, and I would treat them for a medication with the medication, and they would do well for a very short period of time, but it wouldn't be long before they would be back with similar symptoms. However, I will tell you today, and probably over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been practicing, almost 80% of my day is spent talking about neurodevelopmental issues in children. It is very concerning. My heart is very heavy because these children are not healthy. And quite frankly, you do not have to be a physician or a rocket scientist. You just look around at the health of these children in this country, and there's no question that we have some problems. And for me, as a pediatrician and traditionally trained pediatrician that went to medical school, it's a little disheartening that my colleagues do not recognize, what we're seeing as chronic health issues in children. Right when I started medical school 25 years ago, the incidence of autism was 1 in 8,000. Today, it is 1 in 25 to 45 children. And it depends on where you are in the country. It varies a little bit from state to state. However, the research shows that by 2025, if we continue in this same pattern in terms of how we handle healthcare, we can expect that 1 in every 2 children will be autistic by 2025. So, as we know in Nikken, and I love to use the owner's demonstration, we know food is not food anymore. Water is not water anymore. Food is not food, water is not water, air is not air. And most importantly, sleep is an issue, right? And in my personal opinion, this is the biggest concern that I have for our children today. If you think about it, from the time of conception, okay, you start growing a baby. And that baby is going to continue to grow until we get them to adulthood. So we know in Nikken that good quality sleep means two things. Not only that you slept for 8 to 10 hours, so the length is important, but more importantly is the depth of the sleep. So imagine we're trying to grow a healthy brain, and all of that growth and development in children happens when you're sleeping. So we have children that might be sleeping in terms of duration, so they think, but certainly the depth of the sleep is not happening. Because we know today that our lifestyles are challenged, particularly with electromagnetic fields, amongst all the other things that we've already discussed, the toxins in our environment, in our foods, in our water. But most importantly, in my personal opinion, the electromagnetic fields are the greater problem. Because one of the things we know is that our body's electrical, right? And so can you imagine think about how complex the brain is. You have to bring all those nerves that communicate in a very particular way, and they communicate by electrical impulses. And if that's disturbed, then those connections, those electrical connections don't happen. So here we are trying to grow a healthy brain in a child, where if you look at them when they're sleeping, just visualize them. If a parent goes in and looks at them in their bedroom once in a while, you look at these children, they're tossing and turning, they're flipping and flopping like paint. They don't get into REM sleep because the body's electrical system has a certain frequency. A healthy human cell functions roughly with a negative 70 millivolt charge or frequency. And when we talk about being in electromagnetic fields, like for example, Wi-Fi being 2.4 to 5 billion hertz per second, and smart meters with 900 billion hertz per second that these kids are exposed to, they just don't get into the REM sleep. If you don't get into the REM sleep and you don't get good quality sleep, you cannot grow a healthy brain, period.
That includes as we get older, too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let me just say, so I'm a pediatrician, so I mostly see children. And so 85% of my day is spent talking about neurodevelopmental issues. I'm talking about anything from ADHD to autism to developmental delays to, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, mental health disorders of all sorts. And that's what we see in our children today.
So they're not doing well in school.
They're not doing well in school. Parents can't work. A lot of lost time from, home. My husband is in the audience tonight. He's a special ed teacher. Let him speak for a moment. He'll tell you what we see.
If you look up at the screen where it says Sandra, we're in the Thornton's office, and we have 20-some people in the other room here, and your husband just raised his hand.
My husband is a special ed teacher, and he's been a special ed teacher for over 15 years. And he can share with you on another call what he sees. But I'm telling you, they're just glorified babysitters because the kids that are going to school, they're going to school with a brain that is not conducive to learning. It is not about the fact that we don't have good teachers out there, or, I do believe our school systems can do a little better job in terms of how we go about teaching the kids. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a child that's going into a school system whose brain is not well rested, they're not ready to learn. And it has nothing to do with the fact that the teachers don't want to teach these kids. Because we have some great teachers out there. And I know, because I have a dedicated husband that does a very good job with these children.
So Dr. Melaney, 25 years later, what do you see for the future? How are you visioning your way to help children in the future?
So I have been in Nikken for, 17 years or something. I've never stopped sharing Nikken. As a matter of fact, probably about 17 years ago, I began a study because I was seeing so much ADHD. And I decided I don't want to be the ADHD doctor in the community that prescribed all this medicine. And it was interesting because the drug companies knew that I prescribed a lot of medicine, so they would come in my office and they wanted to talk with me every day. They were on me like white on rice. And if I was not in the office, it was my day off, they said, oh, we'll come back when Dr. Caldwell's in. But anyway, they used to wine and dine me. I went to California, Florida. They wanted to have my input on what I would recommend on how they would market their product. Well, let me just say, when I came back from that conference, I was very disturbed. And first of all, I wanted to know, why do you know this information about me and how I prescribe? Well, for you all that may not know, these drug companies go to the pharmacies, they'll go to CVS or Walmart or Walgreens, and they buy my information. It's a good marketing technique. They want to know who prescribes their product. That's who they can go and get sales from, right? It's a good marketing technique. But it really disturbed me, and it led me to make the decision that I made, over 15, 17 years ago, which was, I got to figure out what's going on with these children, and what I'm doing is very limiting, and that it's not helping the children. The children aren't getting better. And so I just asked myself one question, and that is, why will we continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results? So I just went into prayer, and God led me to a Nikken consultant. So I learned about magnetic therapy, and given what I heard from that person and what I was hearing from the patients, that these children were not sleeping, these very children that were having ADHD symptoms, I thought to myself, you know what, I want to do this study. And it just so happened there was a Dr. Margolis that was in Nikken years ago that actually had done or started a study with these children. So I called him, and I learned about how he devised this study. I was able to get some products from Nikken, and I got some placebo products, and I began to do a study on kids with ADHD, and I was getting great results. One thing is, I was in practice with colleagues that were not of the same mindset, and those same colleagues reported me to the Board of Medicine, and I got kicked out of the practice. That was in 2006. Yeah, 2006.
And you started your own wellness.
And I started my own pediatric and wellness center. And so 12 years later, I have 26,000 patients, and I'm overwhelmed, to say the least, because everybody, the people today are looking for what we have. And they're tired of putting their kids on a ton of drugs that don't work, have mega side effects. And they've heard about me, social media is big and sharing is big. Like Brody was saying earlier, when somebody has a hurt and they tell somebody else, and it's like this, it mushrooms. And so that's really what has happened with my practice. It's mushroomed. And it's because people realize that I am about getting to the root of the problem and stop just treating with drugs, and letting them know that what is causing the symptoms that these children are having, being unable to focus at school and having these behavioral disorders, that they're not sleeping well. We changed diet, and it's made a tremendous impact on a lot of...
Dr. Caldwell, I want to thank you immensely for sharing. Look at the time, we got to wrap up here, and Michelle, if you could put the final slide on for me, that would be fabulous. Folks, I want to summarize a couple things here. You are looking at a 40-plus-year-old multi-billion-dollar global corporation that has 40-plus years worth of research and developing, backing up the most advanced concepts on the planet to transform your health and wealth. Talk to the people who you're here with, hear their stories, and every time I meet with Nikken people, I'm blown away by two things. One, the power of the products. Two, the power of the heart of these people and this company and what we can do with this technology. Now, I want to issue a little bit of a challenge for you. As you take a look at this, some of you are going to say, you know what, I just want to get some of these products. I want to use them. And I'm going to get kind of pushy here, and I apologize for this, but get them now. Don't wait for tomorrow when you're choosing whether you're going to get a cappuccino or buy a pair of mag steps, okay? When you know right now that, hey, my health is more important than my caffeine high, or maybe getting a good night's sleep could transform the life of my wife or my child a little better than that flat screen TV for this Christmas, I'm going to encourage you, while you've got your right brain on, and you're thinking, that my health might be the foundational thing for everything in my life. My health might actually be the thing that allows me to have a good retirement. My health might be the thing that allows me to be with my grandchildren, to perform well in my work. Health is everything, folks. And some people that say that they can't afford to get these products, I want to tell you, you can't afford not to get them. Okay? And I feel really, really blessed. Every one of my children have been raised in a wellness home. They've all got these technologies on, around them, in them, through them, on a nonstop basis. And my kids don't even know who our doctor is. We just use this stuff. We haven't had to go. You can have one lucky kid, maybe two, but our kids don't even know who our doctor is. Now, I must take that back up. I had a son, he broke his collarbone. He's taken up football. And so you've got some things you need in those categories. But when it comes to that long-term chronic disease and kids getting sick and not being able to go to school, our kids sometimes wish they could get sick. So if you want to take your pattern, whether you're a child or an adult, and go from a level 5 of being to a level 9 or a level 10 of being, grab yourself every single one of these products that you can, and at least grab one tonight and say, you know what, I may not be able to get everything, but I can start here. And come back next week. I want to give a huge hats off to those of you, Thorntons. I love seeing that room full, and that is an amazing thing that you're doing there. You're blessing a lot of lives. And to everyone who's taken the time on this call, my challenge to you is don't just be here next week. Be here with 3 people in your room watching this call at the same time, and you will be amazed at the lives that get transformed. And understand that some people's lives aren't just going to be transformed with their physical well-being. But if you look down here on this chart, some of you are going to say, well, I want to get these products. Great, grab them. And you may grab them for mom and dad at Christmas time, for your kid, your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, whatever. You all know people who hurt. And why not give something meaningful? Some of you are going to say, you know what? We live in an economy right now where there's a lot of people who are scared. They're scared they're not going to be able to have the finances to retire. They're scared they're not going to have the money to put their kid through college. They're scared that Social Security won't be around. I mean, who knows what's happening for our future? And people say, instead of just giving up, I'm going to do something about it. And they start as a part-time entrepreneur with Nikken to not only make a difference for people financially, but maybe make a difference for their own financial future. And one of the biggest things you might be able to do is to bring all 5 pillars of health to the people that you know. How many people that you know are not just hurting physically, but they're hurting financially too, and give them the gift of being able to share this. Some of you may say, you know what? I'd like to become a full-time entrepreneur with this. People talk about, wouldn't it be neat to have one parent stay home with the children so there could be an at-home mom or an at-home dad? I say, why not have both of them at home? Wouldn't that be a good thing? So anyway, with that in mind, I'm just going to encourage you to take a real good look at this. The more you kick the tires, the more you look at under the carpet to try to find the dust bunnies, the more you take a really good look at Nikken. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to find a company with a stronger philosophy. You're not going to find a company with a stronger set of product technologies, and you're not going to find a company with a better set of people than what you have right here, right now with Nikken. So thank you for having me on, and blessings to all of you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you all for coming on. This was our best turnout. Please come back every week and invite more people and let others know. Thank you so much.
Thanks for hosting this phenomenal evening.
Thank you all.
It was amazing. That the Thorntons have done, we really have to applaud that team. Jean Satterwhite.